Hale, thank you so much for being here, by the way.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I want to have my listeners kind of get to know you personally a little bit. So I want to ask you, because this podcast is about deepening your connection with yourself, your children, and your spouse.
Uh-huh.
Um, what is your family life like right now?
Well, my children is just a Senegal parrot. My wife and I don't have any children, but my wife and I have been together 30 years,
Oh, beautiful.
and we are more deeply in love than we were when we first met, and uh, uh, I lose words when I think about my wife because we have, of course, the same challenges that anyone does, except we've both had the Sedona Method for the 30 years that we've known each other. So when the usual things that come up in relationships come up, instead of holding on to grudges or blaming the other one or uh, giving up or not fully communicating or all the patterns that get people stuck in relationships, when a pattern comes up, when we're acting like our parents or our
Right.
grandparents, instead of just letting the pattern take us over, we let go.
Wow. So
And
she's an
we're,
adopter of the Sedona method also?
oh yeah, yeah, I introduced it to it while we were dating.
Oh, so, okay. So when you were dating, did you come up with it, or did you come up with this
No,
pre-dating?
The Sedona method was inspired by my mentor, a man named Lester Levinson, who was sent home to die from a second coronary back in 1952. And rather than give up, he started a process of self-inquiry and discovered that we all have this natural ability to let go. And he used it intensively in himself to completely heal his body. But he said that was secondary. That what he was actually discovered in that process is this key to ending suffering and unlimited happiness. And he lived another 42 years after the doctors gave him weeks to live, uh, just because of what he had discovered as he explored the truth of who he was.
I find that really fascinating. I've heard many stories like that, and he, wow, there's a lot of ways to go. What do you hear letting go a lot in the
Oh, yeah.
spiritual world, right? For
Yeah.
you and what you teach, what is that? This is such a broad question, but what does it exactly mean? What are we letting go of? And does that mean that nothing like bothers you at all anymore?
No, uh, uh, I still have reactions to things, except uh, they are fewer, far between. They're not as intense, and the my resting state is happiness and peace and joy. That's my resting state. Uh, it's occasionally still disturbed by emotion. And usually, what happens is when an emotion arises, as soon as it arises, I can just feel it just dissolving. I don't need to do anything to get rid of or deal with the limiting emotions that for most of us, once they come up, it's hard to get rid of them. I know people have been in the same emotion their whole lives or for decades. They haven't moved on. Whereas what happens when you learn to let go, it gets it gets easier and easier to just show up, be present, fully engaged, happy, centered, alert, and mindful, no matter what's going on around you. And so what you can let go of is whatever is holding you back in any way. And the Sedona method, by the way, shows you how to let go of not just feelings, but the thoughts that are in the feelings and all the beliefs that create the feelings. So it works at a very deep level, but at the same time, it's very simple to do.
Yeah, and I'll talk about, I want to ask you about the simple pieces of it in a minute. But, you know, why, let's talk about first the question that probably is on most people's mind is, this, how, or let's, okay, let's, why does our brain or why do our thoughts want to take a hold of us for example, I mean, this is something I've been practicing and I've talked about releasing, letting go, feeling my emotions more, letting them pass through me, right?
Yes.
I'm in recognizing, I'll tell you what, Hale, 4 or 5 years ago, I would get an argument with my wife and I would lose it. And it would just this perpetual, and it couldn't stop. I
Right,
literally
right.
could not stop. I wasn't like, I'm not putting my hands on her, but verbally, I couldn't stop. And I never even noticed that I couldn't stop. And then I would walk away, we would stop, and then it would just be playing in my head over and over all this stuff for the next hours. It
Yes,
was,
yes.
I couldn't, that isn't even a question of happening to me anymore.
That's congratulations. That's wonderful.
Right. And I don't say that in a bragging way. I
No,
say that
no,
in
no,
like,
no. It's great. That shows real growth.
right. And I'll still, these emotions will take over, but it'll last 3, 4 minutes max. And I'll recognize it and kind of work through with it.
That's
Maybe
great.
three, right? So why, I don't even know how it happened. I don't even know how this, progress occurred inside of me. But like, what is it inside people right now that allows them to hold on to so much?
Oh, it's very simple. We think we are what we think and feel.
Uh,
We identify as the angry person or the sad person or the hurt person or the misunderstood person or the the lonely person or the person who's a failure, the person who's a success. And we never examine whether or not we're a person at all. Believing that we're a separate individual apart from that one awareness that is living through and as all creation, when we do that, we suffer. When we do that, we cling to these thoughts and feelings that come up because we think we are that. But when you start to see that which you truly are, which is way beyond that, then it gets harder and harder to cling to those things that used to seem so important and so meaningful and so significant. And that which you truly are, the awareness or the beingness or the light, the love, the peace, the joy, that most of us only glimpse occasionally, you can discover is actually your basic nature. All these other thoughts and feelings and beliefs and ideas are just covering that over. And we've identified with and got attached to the covering and never went below the surface to discover what's actually true.
that seems
And
like, oh, I'm sorry.
no, I was just going to say, and once you start to discover what's actually true, then it's natural to let go, and it's natural to love, and it's natural to find harmony, and it's natural to find solutions where before you only saw problems.
So when I say I am so angry right now, or I am angry right now, I'm frustrated. What does that really mean? What am I doing?
Well, it means that your body mind is having an anger or frustration feeling. And I like the way you said it is exactly how most of us think it and feel it. I'm the anger. When you say I am angry, you don't even, most people don't even say I feel angry. We say I am angry.
You know what that
But
reminds me of?
what?
Sorry. So hell, so your what I have to get used to, which is great, your pace is very mindful, right? Of
Right.
conversation.
Yeah, I'm not crowding you. I
No,
don't
not
have
at
a
all.
I don't have a message that I have to get out, otherwise I'm going to die. And because there is a sense of wholeness and completeness and contentment that is what I live in. And so I'm content if I speak a little or a lot. And that makes communication a lot easier. I can actually listen to what the other person is wanting to hear, or it also makes it easier to say what needs to be said, because I, believe it or not, I when I have conversations like this, actually most of my life, I don't think about what I'm going to say before I say it. I'm so aligned with that which I truly am that speaking happens. There is no one thinking about what's going to be spoken about first. It's a spontaneous event. And the speaking comes from this authentic place that's in each and every one of us, this authentic place of intuitive knowingness and clear reason, which we all can discover through letting go and recognizing the truth of who we are.
And which is oneness with the universe, with everybody, right?
Yes.
What you know what it reminds me of is a lot of my morning meditations, I start with I am, and then just kind of let answers come to me. So
Uh-huh.
now when you say that, which I don't know why I've never brought this to my awareness, but now like using words like I am angry, I am upset, I like that is totally in like a, I don't know the right word, like fighting against each other of what I really am, or at least talk about I am in
Yes,
my own
yes. So the
meditations,
I
right?
am, the way we use it
Interesting.
is usually as a way to spin limitation. And I'll explain what I mean by
Ah,
that. I am is that sense of beingness or presence or awareness. We think we need to connect it to person, place, or thing, or to thoughts and ideas and feelings, but it actually is the source of everything, yet it's connected to nothing. And whenever you connect it to something, you limit it. Well, you actually can't limit that which you are, but you believe in limitation. And I would recommend you experiment with a different meditation. Start by just focusing on I am, the feeling of I am, as opposed to seeing what thoughts are connected to it. You can ask yourself, if you want to use words, what is the source of I or I am? That will take you deeper and deeper into the heart of awareness, and you'll find that your mind just stops. The mind is a wonderful tool, but it's an awful master, because what it does is it misdirects us all the time. It creates a problem and then it says, well, here, let me fix it. But it's the one creating it. And we forget that. We don't realize that it's an arsonist masquerading as a fireman. That's what our mind is. It's an arsonist
yes.
masquerading as a fireman.
Yeah, taking us away and like
Yes.
getting us lost in that. Yeah, that's how do what are the pieces that we need to go through? I was on your webpage kind of browsing through of actually letting go, because I think it's such a powerful process to constantly do that, especially as a parent,
Oh,
to be
especially,
able
yes.
to let things go that your children you know create inside of you, when really it's all you, it's not them. I understand that.
Yeah, yeah.
But so to let it go, how do we do that?
Well, actually, let's do a process. But let me
Okay.
first explain what I mean by letting go, because
Okay.
you asked that earlier, and the conversation went on,
Mhm.
and so let's just come back to that, and let's really simplify it.
Okay.
So I'm going to do a little analogy with an object and your hand. So pick up an object. I'm holding a pen, but pick up a pen or pencil or paperclip. It doesn't matter what it is. And for the sake of this analogy, the object represents your unwanted thoughts and feelings and beliefs and ideas about yourself. And your hand represents either just your gut or your awareness. Now grip the object really tightly with your hand.
Got it.
Now, if we did this long enough, it would start to get really uncomfortable, but also feel really familiar, because this is what we do with our thoughts and feelings and beliefs all the time. So that's enough gripping. So open your hand and roll the object around in your hand. Now, is this object attached to your hand?
It's
Obviously not.
right.
Right.
It's just resting.
It's just resting on your hand. Exactly. And so close your hand lightly around the object, turn your hand upside down, and just drop the object. That's what's meant by letting go. What you're letting go of is the things that you're clinging to, that you've identified with, that you're resisting. When you can let that go in any moment simply by choosing to. It's really just a choice. And we forget that. And by the way, since you're a parent, I know you've seen this. Young children do this naturally for the first 2.5 years of life or so. And to some degree after that, children will get really upset about something and then they'll just drop it as though it didn't happen. We as parents are still responding to their upset they had an hour ago, but they don't even, they have no idea that you're at all. It's gone for them because this is letting go is completely natural. I'm sure you've seen this. Do you have sons or daughters or both? Or
Yeah, I have both, and yeah, I mean, my thought is like, how did we lose that? How did we lose
well,
that along
I'll
the way of
explain that,
life?
but I just want to give you an example.
Yeah, yeah. I
The
have so many
have
questions for you.
that no, shoot, that's great. So do you remember when your son or daughter would fall down and then look around to see if they need to be upset?
Yes, I see that happen often. My daughter
Right.
falls a lot.
Right. Well, the children do as part of as part of learning how to walk. It's a good thing that we don't just fall down once and give up as children. We'd never walk.
They do. They look around and they're like, should I be upset?
And if they don't catch your eye, then it's like there's no upset. Catch your eye. Oh, this is a good time to get a little attention, and then they get upset. But as soon as you give them the attention, they kiss you. You give them a kiss or whatever it is they were looking for. They drop it. Well, what happens is as we mature, we identify more and more. Your children, when they first started, how old are they now?
My son is 2, almost 3, and my daughter is 5, almost 6.
Okay, so you watched this with your daughter. Didn't you go through a period where she when she was looking for her toy, she didn't say, "Where's my toy?" She says, what's her name?
Aria.
Where's Arya's toy? Can I have Arya's toy? She talked
Yes,
about it in the third person.
correct.
That's what happens. At first, there's no even sense of an Arya, but we do this with Daddy, Arya, Daddy, Arya, Daddy, Arya, and pretty soon she realizes that you're referring to that body as Arya, and so she starts identifying with it. Once she gets identified enough, it goes from Arya's toy to my toy, and that's also when the no comes in. That where as soon as you've identified enough, then you have to defend that identification because it's very insubstantial. And so that continues as we mature. We're saying no and no and no and no more and more and more. And we're losing touch with this natural ability to let go and be spontaneous and happy and at ease moment to moment. You get children gifts, and sometimes they're more entertained with the box the gift came in.
Yeah, we just had that conversation, Hale, like 2 days ago, because my kids played with a box all day.
That's right. They could play with the box all day, and they're totally content. We, as adults, want fancier and fancier boxes. And so what happens is, as you learn to let go, you stop identifying with the limited person, and you start to see you're much more than that, and you get in touch again with this spontaneity and naturalness and ability to just simply let go. So let's while we still have time, let's do at least one process so I can give something that to your listeners that they'll be able to take with them. Does that
I like
sound
that a
good?
lot. I like that a lot.
Okay, and then we can come back to this conversation because
Yeah.
I can tell you're just sitting on a lot more questions.
I'm listening. I'm taking it all in. Yeah.
But that's great. No, it's wonderful. I mean, your earnestness and your naturalness in your interest in this is fun, and it's helpful to everyone listening. So don't change yourself in any way. but
Appreciate it.
let's drop in a process. Okay. So For the sake of, so I'll tell you what the steps are first, and then I'll take us through. It's better if I do it at least twice. 3 times is better, but it doesn't really matter. But the important thing is that this tool is incredibly, this is just the beginning stages of the Sedona method. It's sometimes where we start with people in our audio programs and in the book and all the things that we teach. But it's only a very small piece of it, but it's simple enough that I can talk about it and you'll get benefit from it, just this one piece, just from using it in your life. So the question, first question is just to focus on something you're wanting to change or improve in your life. And that's totally up to you. The next question is, could you just notice the feeling or welcome it or allow it or be present with it? Because most of the time we don't even do that. We're so busy, lost in it, we don't even notice that there's a feeling there. There's a thought there that's getting in the way. So that in and of itself is already a relief. And then there are 3 follow-on questions that get you more and more in touch with this natural ability to let go.
Can I share my
Sure.
thing? So, and I think I want to do this just for the audience's purposes to give them a second and also understand what it is. So for me, and I'm getting a lot better at this, Hale, I've always been a fixer, right? I always thought I had the answers, and you know what I
Yes,
mean.
yes.
My ego always thought, I knew what I was talking about. So, especially in relationships, so I would always, if somebody was feeling sick, I wasn't very in touch with my emotions. It still is hard for me. So, if somebody's feeling something that I don't think I would feel or don't think they should feel, I would tell them to snap out of it. Like, everything's going to be
Oh,
okay. We have
yeah.
so much to be grateful for. We have, you know what I mean? Like I go through that whole process,
Yes, yes.
and I'm trying to let that go and not be such a need to fix all the time.
Good.
So
That's
there's
a wonderful.
my thing that I like to change or be better at.
Well, good, good. And by the way, you can be as self revealing as you'd like. The wonderful thing about our seminars is you never need to do that, even in our live seminars. Right now, we don't do them in person. We do them via Zoom and via teleconference. But the uh, the beautiful thing about the Sedona method is it works at the level of the feeling as opposed to why you have it, because you'll discover that why you have the feeling or the thought or the belief is not as important as just letting it go. And
Mm.
you don't need to know why in order to
Ah,
let go. And it's a common misconception. That's
ah.
why people often struggle with letting go, is because they have to they think they need to know why they feel the way they do first. And sometimes you never know.
It just complicates things.
It overcomplicates things, definitely. And you'll find that once you do let go, if you need to know why, you'll have an insight. You'll go, oh, I know why I was feeling angry. It was this. Oh, and that's nothing to even be angry about. Okay, well, good.
All right, perfect. Sorry to
But if you go,
sidetrack.
oh, no. Again, this is perfect. Uh, because it also exposes something that a place that we all get stuck. We get stuck in thinking that we need to reason it out.
Mm.
But emotion and reason often run at cross purposes. And and as you let go and you rediscover that natural center or core or beingness that's in right within you in this moment, then what happened is your thoughts and your feelings get into alignment and they support each other. And it's a very different way of living life. But anyway, so the next question is, could you let it go? And if you're able to drop that object, which I saw you do, and those of you at home or wherever you're listening to this, I know you can do it too. Even if you could just imagine dropping an object, then you can do it. So it's the first question is, could you let it go? The next question is, would you? And would you just means, are you willing to? And if you're ever not sure when doing this on your own, you can ask yourself, would I rather hold on to the suffering, or would I rather be free of it and have my goals? And usually the answer is obvious then. And then the last question is when? And when is an invitation to decide to do it now. And the only thing I recommend when you go through this process, either as we do it together now or on your own, is you avoid excess inner conversation, you stick more with your heart or your feeling sense as best you can. And it's just answer the question spontaneously and know that yes or no are acceptable answers. If you're being honest with yourself, I've seen happen thousands of times. Someone says no, can you let it go? No. And then they let go anyway. Because they were being honest, and so because letting go is natural, it just happened anyway. So anyway, so let's go through the process. It will get more clear. And you don't need to respond out loud because I'm going to do this as a group release for everyone listening. We can talk about it afterwards, but let's just do it. So in this moment, could you just simply pause the mind for a second as best you can? And just simply notice what is. Or simply allow yourself to be. Now, by the way, this pausing is enough to start to shift your inner sense. Now, allow yourself to think of something in your life that you're wanting to change or improve. It doesn't matter what it is. And then whatever you thought of, could you allow yourself to notice or be present with or welcome or allow whatever that stirs up inside of you? Could you just let it be here as best you can? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let it go? Just could you? Would you? When? Now you may have noticed you let go a little on could you, a little on would you, a little on when, or you may have saved it all up for the when. In any case, let's run it through it again, just so you can get a better sense of it. Allow yourself to focus on that same thing or anything else that you're wanting to change or improve. And notice how you feel now. Allow it, be present with it, welcome it as best you can. And then as best you can, just for now, could you let it go? Just could you? Would you? When? And let's go through that one more time to take it even deeper. Again, focus on that same thing or anything else that you're wanting to change or improve. And just notice or allow or welcome or be present with whatever it stirs up inside of you. Just let it be here as best you can. And then as best you can, just for now, could you let it go? Just could you? Would you? When? Okay, good. So what you'll find if you play with those questions, they'll help you to start letting go of even things you've held on to for a long time. And it really can be that easy to just simply let go. We've been brainwashed to believe that letting go is a struggle and it's hard. We started talking about letting go in 1976, actually in 1974. I've been doing it since 76. And when we first started talking about letting go, no one else was except the 12-step community. now everyone talks about letting go. Yeah, we're still known in the self-help and spiritual space as the most elegant, if not one of the most elegant tools for letting go there is, because it's so simple and so direct and so natural. And it's what we specialize in. We specialize in letting go and recognizing the truth of who or what we are. And between those two, you can transform anything.
Thank you for that. I sensed a feelings of compassion coming through a lot, self compassion, stuff like that. It was what what about, I want to drop a scenario because so your mind goes, well, there are situations where, so what about like when you see some wrongdoing and you want to stand up for somebody?
Yes.
How do you, you know, you start to get emotionally reactive in that situation and you step into it and you want to help, right?
Right.
How does the
Oh, it
process of
helps
letting go?
it helps tremendously with that. Have you ever stepped into a situation only to make it worse?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You-
We've all done that. And what happens is the sense of compassion, the sense of love, the sense of caring for your fellow man, for your family, for your wife, your husband, the world, actually increases the more you let go. But you act more and more from a place of love and certainty and clarity, as opposed to a reaction to injustice. When you're just reacting to injustice, you actually feed injustice. When you're reacting to wrong, you're actually feeding it. But if you take a moment, and it doesn't take more than a moment to just let go, then you'll, if there's an action you need to take, the action you'll take will be much more in alignment with what's actually needed now. And also, you may discover sometimes there's no action to take. Your stepping in will only make it worse. If you sit back and let the other person or the people experience what they're experiencing for a moment, then they might get their own answers. They might have their own breakthroughs. And as you let go, you're able to discern the difference between something that's necessary and something that's just a reaction.
What about letting go and forgiveness? Do they play a role with each other?
Oh, absolutely. Forgiveness is natural when you let go. And trying to let go trying to forgive without letting go is impossible. And everyone has seen people said, I forgive you.
Hey.
Not really. They're actually saying F you, not I forgive you, even though and they rhyme. So, but when you let go, the sense of forgiveness of the other person, but also of yourself. Most people don't forgive themselves enough. We may even be willing to let someone else off the hook, but if we mess up, oh boy, that means we need to beat ourselves up from now or from now on.
Gee, so if it's easier to forgive somebody else, which is a tough thing to do for many people, especially in extreme circumstances, then it must be really difficult to forgive ourselves because
Well, it actually is easy when you let go. When you just try to forgive yourself, just, I mean, if you've tried, you know that sometimes you just can't do it, or the other person, because you're stuck with the emotion that's telling you that they did something wrong or that's unforgivable or whatever the story is that you're telling yourself. But when you let go of the emotion that's locking the your perspective in place, then you're free to see what's actually true in this moment. And you don't condone things that are incorrect,
right.
but you also don't get hung up on them.
Mm.
You move on. You take the appropriate action. Like, if someone cheats you in business, you don't do business with them again. And if you need to get money back, you get your money back if you can. But if you can't, or if you or if the circumstances just changed, instead of obsessing over it, you move on and you do business. You find other people to do business with who are more trustworthy.
Yeah.
Because
So it's
what most people do is they go to war with the person who did something to them, and then they're, instead of focusing their energy on something constructive, they're lost in a battle that they'll probably not win.
yeah, that happened to me, and I get people to this day. I got taken pretty good,
Yeah.
and that was my first process of letting go. It was almost serendipitous discovering meditation around the same time of this situation happening to me. And people to this day, 3 years later, 2 years later, they're like, I cannot believe you didn't just want to kill him still. I can't
Yeah.
believe you don't want to just rip his throat out and take
Right,
him
right.
and sue him and spend. And I'm choosing not to put my energy there. I've let go. I forgive. I've taken responsibility for a lot of it, and I've moved on.
That's right. And so you'll go far with that attitude. When you want to go back and change what was, no one ever seems to notice that it doesn't work. Can you actually change what already happened?
It almost seems like
Obviously,
it's that easy. Like if you can't change it, move on, right? And then somebody says,
exactly.
"Well, oh, it's not that easy, though. Hell, it's not that easy."
No, it's harder to hold on. You know, rivers flow, life flows. What you can let the river carry you, or you can go kicking and screaming, trying to swim upstream and gripping onto every rock that you pass.
Mm.
And when you grip onto the rock, the stream just goes over you and you're going to get swept away anyway. But when you let go, then you have the power of the river behind you. When you're swimming against the current, you're using most of your energy against the current of life. And this is how most of us live our lives. We're expending almost all our energy all day long resisting life, rejecting life, second guessing life with our regrets, our doubts, our angers, our frustrations. And all that is swimming upstream. Not that it's not natural to have a reaction in the moment, but it's just in the moment. Then you move on. And so what you can discover is that as you let go, your ability to be constructive goes up exponentially, because again you have all this extra power because you're not swimming against the current of life, you're flowing with life. And when you flow with life, you're unstoppable.
It's almost like you like manifest more time in your life when you do that. Like it
Yes,
seems like you have so much more time.
you start to touch that which is truly at your core, which is timeless. And as the more you live from that timeless place, the more you feel like you have all the time in the world to accomplish what you need to. It doesn't mean you don't act quickly. If you act as quickly as necessary in this moment, I can get a lot done in a very short period of time. In fact, the Sedona Method book, the first book, the the core book about the Sedona Method, I wrote that book in just 6 months. And I wrote a book before then that was a 5-book series that I've recently combined into just one book. I wrote that book in 6 weeks. And that's because I was stayed really focused and kept letting go. So I was able to just keep working. And anytime there was a block, I let it go and I just kept working. So you actually work smarter when you let go as opposed to harder.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot. I totally do. Let's jump into your newest book, The
Sure.
Greatest Secret.
Well,
So,
actually, that's not my newest book. It's Rhonda Byrne's newest book.
oh, you're just in
That
it.
I'm in it. The Rhonda Byrne recently wrote a new book called The Greatest Secret,
Okay.
and she in the past 14 years since The Secret came out, which most of you have heard of, she's spent her life dedicating herself to her own inner spiritual quest, how to get rid of unhappiness, how to and suffering, how to discover the truth of who she was. And she studied with a group of different teachers, not individually, not as a group. They weren't all together in the same room. And I have the wonderful blessing of being in the original book and movie, The Secret, but I'm also in The Greatest Secret, because what I teach is about letting go, which she's been studying, and discovering the truth of who you are. And in discovering that, all suffering ends. And so uh, uh, it's an amazing book. If you haven't read Rhonda Byrne's new book, I would highly recommend it. I'm just one of many teachers in it. Eckhart Tolle is in it, Rupert Spira, uh, Deepak Chopra, and many other teachers who you may not have heard of, but you should, because they're all pretty amazing people. I've actually in the process of starting a podcast, which should be launching probably sometime in March. And I've been interviewing teachers both from The Secret and The Greatest Secret. And it's been wonderful to get to meet all these people, because a lot of them I hadn't met. Some of them I'd met before, but many of them I hadn't. So it's been really fun to interview all these people I knew all the people from The Secret. They're all friends of mine. But the people from The Greatest Secret, these other spiritual teachers, I've heard of some of them, but I hadn't really talked to them directly. And so it's been really fun to talk to them directly.
And you said non-duality is the topic, or
Yes.
spoke of a lot in there. Can you tell the audience that might not be familiar with the
Oh,
topic
sure.
of
That's a
non,
really good idea.
what is non-duality? What does that mean?
Well, what non-duality is about is that there is something you can experience directly for yourself. There is an interconnectedness that runs through all people, all plants, all animals, even inanimate objects. They're all part. You listening to me right now and I am all part of this one unified whole, a unified field. In physics, they talk about the unified field. Well, that unified field is actually our true nature. We limit it when we think we're just a limited person in a body in this particular location. But you can discover from your own direct experience that you are not limited by anything. You are the all. And that's what non-duality is about. It's discovering that for yourself, and discovering that wherever you feel limited is just an illusion. It's not the truth. You have no limits at all, except the ones that your mind takes on.
Yeah. And we tend to, what it reminds me of is somebody that writes a book, reads a book, and they're like, I could never write a book, but they want to deep down inside. And then other people are like, dude, you can't write a book, man. You're not a writer.
Right.
And then you start believing that and creating your own limits on something like
Yes,
that. And if that
yes,
happened
absolutely.
to you would have never made the Sedona Method or Happiness is Free or The Greatest, or been in any of these books, right?
No, I know, but it did happen to me. I used to hate writing. I was a terrible speller. And I had learning disabilities. I actually didn't have a diagnosed disability, but I had a real struggle with even learning how to spell and how to write. But what happened is, as I let go, I loved this method so much, I wanted to share it. So I started writing things about it, and I discovered I could write. And it was easy. And for me, because I wrote from my own inner truth. And so even if you believe right now you can't do something, that's not necessarily true. I also used to be, growing up, I was introverted and very shy. Now I regularly speak to hundreds of thousands of people at the same time, and I'm completely comfortable doing it. And again, that it's 100% because I let go of my social anxiety. I let go of my lack of self-confidence. I let go of my second guessing myself. I let go of this tendency to run away from the world. And now I feel completely at ease and natural in any situation. I'm still completely comfortable being by myself. But I just finished a course this past weekend called Mastering the Greatest Secret. It was a course to help people learn what's in Rhonda Byrne's book experientially. And there were 400 people on that Zoom course. And it was the same as me talking to you right now. It was just as effortless as this conversation has been.
So letting go of fear seems to be a big one. People seem to always be scared of something, right?
Oh,
Speaking, scared of
absolutely.
spiders, right?
Or scared of COVID.
Scared of COVID, right? We could talk about that, right?
On and on, we could talk about that.
Yeah.
But fear is false evidence appearing real. That's not my quote. It's I forget who I'm quoting there. But fear is releasable. I've had people. I've seen people easily, just by the way, even just using those first questions that we talked about earlier, let go of fears and phobias, even deep ones, and have them never come back. So even fear is completely releasable.
It's almost hypnotic kind of doing that practice that you went through earlier, right?
Well, it's actually dehypnotizing us. We're hypnotized to believe we're separate and
Mm.
that we're limited and that we can't and that we don't know how and that we're afraid and that we're stuck or that we don't have enough. That's all hypnosis. The releasing wakes you up from that.
Could you imagine if the political world took the approach of non-duality into their life?
Well, can you imagine if they even just let go a little? Forget about non-duality, just let it go. Oh my God, can you imagine if our world leaders let go and treated each other with love and respect? It'd be a different planet.
I can't understand why they can't, and I don't know. I'm not up top, so I don't understand. But
No, they
it can't.
can, but it's gotten stuck, and hopefully they'll get unstuck. It's possible.
I feel
It's
it.
not always. I mean, it's politician politics is always a distortion for most of the time, but the level of stuckness where it is now is extreme. It's not always been as stuck, and so if it because it hasn't always been as stuck, I know it doesn't have to stay that way.
Yeah, my as we have a few minutes here left, this has been great. I appreciate everything. I could go on for 2 more hours, but I want to respect both of our times. Um, with the pandemic going on, you mentioned it a little bit. It's still happening. People listening to this is we're in it. Um, my viewpoint at this, my perspective now, and how the way that I approach it myself. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I I just wear my mask as the CDC recommends, and I am careful with who I'm hanging out with and doing and living my life currently, just so I don't know, spread more and create the hospitals to be more overrun. And after that, I don't sit there and watch the numbers, pay attention to the news, like deeply read articles after article after article about it. I just don't see how that helps me or the situation. And
It
I don't know
doesn't.
if that's
It
right or
doesn't.
wrong approach.
No,
But
I think that's a very sane approach. If you, whatever you concentrate on expands within your experience. So your approach is a very sane approach. And by the way, you probably heard the expression pandemic fatigue. It's very, very, very popular to talk about. It's like had enough of it.
that's
But it's actually not fatigue directly. The fatigue is actually coming from something that's deeper. Whenever we feel like we have to do something, we should do something, we must do something, whether we're telling ourselves that or someone else is telling us, our first reaction is no, is to resist, to dig our heels in. And when we resist, it saps our energy. So you can actually let go of your resistance, and resistance puts you more out of control. Martial artists know this. When you come at a good martial artist, they use your energy against you. They step out of the way. They exert as little energy as possible. They're non-resistant. But we in life are like bulls in a china shop. We're pushing and shoving and pulling, and we're expending all this unnecessary energy because we're in such resistance. So if you allow yourself to let go of your resistance to the pandemic and to anything actually in your life that you don't like, then you start to flow with what is, and you respond the way you need to. And it changes. When we approach any situation based on the way it was, we miss the way it is. And when we're in resistance, we're approaching it based on how it was as opposed to the way it is. And we also rob ourselves of the enjoyment that's possible even when we're in a situation like this. You can still have a full, rich, happy life, despite the fact that, for at least for now, there are certain parameters that we're all living within, or most of us are. And imagine what life would be like without resistance, without that inner no going on all the time. And that resistance is completely releasable.
Storming the Capitol.
Right,
A lot of
right.
resistance there, right?
Yeah, but that was just a symptom. There's so much. Each and every one of us carries so much resistance. Anytime we don't want to do something, part of it is because we're resistant to doing it. And resistance is just a feeling that's releasable. There are certain things, even about being a parent, that you feel resistant to. It doesn't mean you don't love your children. You still love your children. But imagine what it would be like if you had no resistance to even those things.
Flow. Yeah, that's the word that comes to mind.
Exactly.
Just
Yes, exactly. Ease, flow, joy, happiness.
like wind going through
And
a pipe, just very easily. Just flow.
exactly. Exactly. But when we resist what is, whether it's an emotion or a situation, and whether it's internal or external, it doesn't matter. When we resist, we're wasting energy and causing unnecessary suffering. So when we let go of resisting, we can still stand up for what's right. We can still make choices, but it's not a reaction. It's not a pushing against someone else. It's stepping forward on your own 2 feet.
And that is all internal. I mean, that's
Yes, that's
inside.
all internal.
And that's why that fatigue happens.
Yes.
The pandemic fatigue is because of that resistance and the energy we're losing.
Yes.
Yeah, I that makes so much sense when you say it that way. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Where are you calling from right now?
Bellingham, Washington.
Okay, I'm in Rochester, New York. We got a lot of snow recently, but what I wanted you to have you do now is, I know you've mentioned it a couple times, but can you direct my listeners to where they can take a week virtual retreat with you, a class, whatever you have?
Sure. Uh, I don't have it in front of me. There's a link that you got sent. Whoops.
You know what? Let me mention it actually, because I did
Yeah,
get
you
the link.
mentioned the link.
So it is. It's actually www.sedona, and it'll be in the show notes. SedonaMethod.com.
No, it's
For
Sedona.com.
I'm sorry, Sedona.com. We're teamwork here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sedona.com/mindful impact. So
Right, right.
Sedona.com/mindful impact.
And so there's all sorts of free resources there, and there's information about our programs. There's also 2 other places that should also be in the show notes. There's our YouTube channel, which is the Sedona Method YouTube channel. There are a few hundred free videos there that you
Nice.
can use to start supporting yourself. And then there's the Sedona Method Facebook page, which has quotes from me and my mentor, Lester Levinson, a new one every day. And there's also free material there too. So and there's all sorts of resources to support you in exploring this further.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. What are you? Do you plan on doing any in-person retreats again?
Yes. Well, again, once enough people are vaccinated and we're over this craziness, I'm hoping to go back to live retreats. I don't know if that will happen this year, but certainly by next year, that will be the case.
Can I
But
ask you
even,
something?
yeah,
Oh,
sure.
I find it fascinating where there's a couple spiritual leaders, I won't mention names, that are still doing in-person retreats to the max.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and then what makes you choose not to do that?
Oh, I
Because
just want to honor where people are at. I don't want to, if I can do it via Zoom right now, why not do that? Then, and it's also easier for me. I don't have to go anywhere, but also people on my Zoom seminars, I do them at times that also are good for the people. We have a big following in Europe for the people in Europe. So I have, when I do a Zoom retreat, the 400 people that are on my last retreat were from every continent. And so they don't have to travel. They can get all the same benefit via Zoom. Why not do it that way?
yeah,
And when I do live seminars, some of them I also do live streaming so that people can participate from home. It's a cross pollination. But
yeah,
again, I just wanted to honor, I didn't want to create unnecessary stress for people. We already have enough stress, but having to debate whether or not I want to go into a group of strangers, even if they're all social distancing and wearing masks, there's the thing of traveling there. Why put people through that right now? There'll be plenty of time to do all the things we were doing.
yeah.
It seems like forever, but the pandemic has only been about a year.
Yeah.
And a year from now, hopefully, we'll be in a very different place. In the meantime, let's adapt to the way things are.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Hal. Okay, my last question, and I'm curious, what out of all the stuff you know, and I'm maybe you'll use this word letting go, but if you could tell your 18-year-old self anything and he would listen, what advice, what little snippet of advice would you give him?
My 18-year-old self. Well, I would say follow your heart. Because again, I was pretty precocious. My 18-year-old self was already into spirituality and studying this and pursuing it. That's what led me to the Sedona Method when I was age 22. And by the way, when I discovered it in age 22, when I met Lester, before I took the course, the Sedona Method course, I knew before the course was over that I was going to dedicate my whole life to this. And it's been 44 years, still doing it. And
Incredible.
but if I was just going to if I could say something to everybody, it doesn't matter what your age is, I would say just take this away with you. Feelings are just feelings. They're not facts and they're not you, and you can let them go. And who or what you are at your core is already whole, complete, and enough as it is. Everything that you want in life can be found uh, by you naturally, by you just letting go and tuning in to this natural wholeness within you and bringing that with you to everything you do in life.
Mic drop. Thank you, Hal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.